Welcome back, everybody. In this video, we're typing tennis legend Roger Federer in the objective personality system, who, as it turns out, is actually the first athlete we're typing on here.
Yeah.
Roger retired from professional tennis a couple of years ago, but this huge transition in his life is still an ongoing topic in most of his public appearances. There's even an entire documentary that came out about it last year, and it's pretty good. Coincidentally, Holly and I are also going through our own little transition with this channel because this will be our last OPS typing class, at least in its current form.
For more than a year now, Felix and I have been coached by Shan from Objective Personality, and these classes grew out of this collaboration with her. Unfortunately, Shan will no longer be coaching us, so this class on Roger will be our last typing video, where the type has actually been confirmed by Shan and Dave. So we are currently rethinking the future direction of our channel. We do still want to make personal development content that will be more or less related to OPS, but we won't stick to a specific upload schedule as we did for the past 1.5 years. In particular, Felix will be focusing more on his writing to figure out how OPS can be better applied to personal development. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to our newsletter through the link in the description below. We may continue to release our own celebrity typing classes in the future, but they will be our best guesses with the level of training that we currently have. We do want to thank everyone who has supported our channel thus far, especially the people who commented on a regular basis and the ones who participated on the typing discussions on the OPS Discord server. Now let's get on to Roger. As always, we're going to start with our biases. Roger visually reminded me a little bit of Henry Cavill. I think it was the strong jaw and the good hair that did it for me. I didn't actually know much about him before we started typing him, but I did find him to be very likable the more that I watched.
And this likability might already be the indication for some parts of his. So I didn't really have any visual bias on Roger. I actually kind of didn't know where to start with him, which was a bit confusing.
Yeah.
But I was thinking of the tennis players Novak Djokovic and Andy Murray, who are typed as sleep, blast, play, consume, NITI and NIFI respectively. So I thought, who knows, maybe Roger is also some kind of sleep, blast, play IJ. But of course I never put that much weight on this random idea. Okay, but let's start with OI versus OE. Roger is still navigating the transition from professional tennis player to retired professional tennis player / philanthropist / businessman / spokesperson for sports and Swiss tourism. So how does he feel about having or not having a plan? Let's take a look.
And we welcome the 8-time Wimbledon champion, Roger Federer, back home to Wimbledon. Now removed from competition, what are your feelings about this place and the competitions?
Great to be here. Thank you very much. I still feel, I just wrote my friend this morning, it's great to be here, but still a bit strange, you know, not having an next practice, not a next match, not a meal where you're thinking what you're going to pack for your... for everything that's to come of the day, but I love being here. I'm happy my children are here with me today as well, or this week, and my wife as well. My parents actually also came, so it feels like going back in time a little bit, so it's great fun.
Yeah.
In this video, he's back in Wimbledon, and the interviewer asked him, so how does it feel to be back? And he talks about the difference in routine, that usually when he's there, he had a plan for training and meals and what to do. But now this isn't the case. And it sounds like he really liked having a plan. He liked knowing what to do next. And maybe he feels a bit lost right now. So he clearly frames having a plan, at least in this moment, as something positive, something that's comforting for him. But the other thing that he immediately brings in unprompted, because he's asked about Wimbledon, he brings in the people in his life that are important to him. He talks about his children, his wife, even his parents. Why is that? Might be important later on.
And also another thing to add is him talking about how other people feel. So there's also another hint there.
True.
For another coin.
Yeah. This positive framing of having a plan and a routine is a first indication that Roger might be Saviour OI. But let's take a closer look at the kind of planning that he does.
So what's Roger applying that brain to now? Or do you get to rest that and think of something else?
I have the feeling maybe, like you said, Trevor, it's maybe a little bit of a holding position, a little bit of a resting phase, because I have retired just 5 minutes ago.
Wait. Let's pause here.
Yeah.
This is your resting phase?
I mean, resting phase as in, you
wait.
know...
Wait. Yo, Roger, I'm going to call you out. No one's going to call you out. No, this is your resting phase? Yo, okay, let's
No, but, okay.
Let's go. Launching a sunglasses brand that was sold out in minutes, all right? continuing to like blow up one of the fastest growing sports brands in the world, right? Which is On, traveling around the world, still with like as a Rolex ambassador, still being the face of tennis, releasing a documentary, going around the world. Like, this is your resting phase?
Well, I feel like this. I say it because this year in particular, I was very strong with my wife to say, you know what, let's plan all our vacations super early.
Okay.
So nobody can say like, oh, by the way, can you come to this one thing?
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I'm so
Yeah,
sorry.
that makes sense.
I'm in Vietnam right now, you know, or I will be in Vietnam at this time, or
Yeah.
I'll be in Bangkok, or I'll be, you know, somewhere around the world. So I really protected my schedule. I
That's
feel
smart.
at a very good level this year. I'm really happy we did that. I told you we just came back 6 weeks from Asia, from an amazing trip. We're in Thailand. Before that, we were in Japan last October, and we had a wonderful Christmas in the Maldives. You know, so things I really, really looked forward to for many, many years while still on tours. That one day I can go visit places without the stress of having to practice or actually play another match there.
Man, it's so funny you say this.
And it's been great for me to do that. So I know I'll get back into it. And then, like you said, I have all these projects, you know, that all of a sudden came about, but not almost because I wanted them so badly. They came back organically. I mean, On, they're just around the corner. So I go to the offices and we talk about stuff. Zendaya just signed with On now. So that's been so cool.
By the way, that story is amazing on so many different levels.
All right, there are two main points that we want to highlight in this clip. First of all, Roger calls that phase of his life, the interviews from last year, by the way, his resting phase. And Trevor Noah calls immediately bullshit. And then, as the good Saviour Ti that he is, gives like a lot of proof of what Roger's actually doing. It proves how insanely busy Roger is. So like, how can this be his resting phase? So Roger might not be an introvert who actually rests, but he isn't completely wrong, because Roger then points out that he has planned his year, that he has planned the family holidays. And he protects his schedule, as he says. So he doesn't do much long-term planning. It's not this like visionary planning of his life. It's the protecting the schedule for that year. But he actually controls the schedule, he plans, and this allows him to say no to others, to actually narrow down and say, I do this, I have my holiday vacation in Thailand, so I can't come to your thing. So he is, in a way, maybe not resting, but definitely controlling and narrowing down and saying no. So Roger's probably an extrovert, but also controls in a savior state, and he controls his schedule. He controls short term and he controls in specific ways. So it looks like that Roger's actually Saviour SI. So far we gathered two indications for why he's Saviour OI, probably Saviour SI, but if we're seeing that, then we should also see Demon OE, or rather Demon NE specifically. And we're gonna look at the first clip from his commencement speech that he gave at Dartmouth University last year. This speech, to kind of set it in context, is scripted, but it is scripted by him. So in this speech, he wants to deliver certain lessons that are valuable to him. So we need to take that into context, but it can be still very, very useful for typing, because we can ask ourselves, okay, Roger, why are you giving these specific lessons? Why was it not obvious for you to have learned these lessons? Why was it important for you to have figured this out? So this is what we need to understand, but let's roll the first clip of the speech.
Life is bigger than the court. A tennis court is a small space, 2,106 square feet to be exact. That's for singles matches. Not much bigger than a dorm room. Okay, make that 3 or 4 dorm rooms in Mass Row. I worked a lot, learned a lot, and ran a lot of miles in that small space, but the world is a whole lot bigger than that. Even when I was just starting out, I knew that tennis could show me the world, but tennis could never be the world. I knew that if I was lucky, maybe I could play competitively until my late 30s, maybe even 41. But even when I was in the top 5, it was important to me to have a life, a rewarding life, full of travel, culture, friendships, and especially family. I never abandoned my roots. I never forgot where I came from. But I also never lost my appetite to see the very big world. I left home at 14 to go to school in the French part of Switzerland for 2 years. And I was horribly homesick at first, but learned to love a life on the move. But these are the reasons I never burned out, maybe. I was excited to travel the world, but not just as a tourist. I realized pretty early that I wanted to serve other people in other countries. I'm here to tell you from the other side of graduation that leaving a familiar world behind and finding new ones is incredibly, deeply, wonderfully exciting.
So in this clip, he delivers the third and final lesson in his speech. And what does he end with? Leaving a familiar world behind and finding new ones is incredibly, deeply, wonderfully exciting. Now, this totally sounds like Saviour OE. New is good, new is exciting. But like as I said before we watched this clip, we have to take what he says into context to interpret it correctly. Because he gives this lesson, but why is this a lesson? Why is he explicitly emphasizing it? It's something that he learned. He talks in the beginning of this lesson about the familiar space of the tennis court and realizing that the tennis is not the world, that the world is so much greater, that he had to learn that early on, that he felt homesick in the beginning when he went to the French part of Switzerland to go to school there, and he had to learn to love a life on the move. And I'm not saying he's lying when he says that he loves a life on the move. I'm just saying, why is he emphasizing that? Why is he saying that he had to learn to love it? It just indicates that this excitement for new is not his default state, is something learned, something that's a bit weird for him, that he's insecure about. So this is what we call a demon state, something that's not obvious, that's a lesson. It doesn't mean he's not doing it, it doesn't mean he's not actually excited about it. It's just a bit weird for him.
Okay, so now that we've just seen that Roger is Saviour OI and more specifically Saviour SI, so the next one we're going to look at is whether he is DE versus DI and feeler versus thinker.
Your speech was terrific. Your
Thank you.
tennis lessons, a
Right.
couple of them stuck out. Discipline is a skill. Nothing's effortless.
Yes, exactly.
I apologize. I said effortless many times. I didn't
Yes.
realize it bothered you.
No, it didn't.
So
It didn't
much.
bother me per se, but you know, people really sometimes forgot actually how much work goes into it, and I never really made a big fuss about it because I feel all the players work extremely hard, so there's no need to shout about it. But I know that some other players, they feel better when they can tell the world how hard they train, and it maybe sends a message to the opponents and to their country that they represent, that they're working unbelievably hard. And I always just felt like maybe I can go the other way around and I can just like not let anybody know that I work so hard. And then when I get to the tennis tournaments, you know, I actually am just actually recovering from the hard work, and I'm getting ready for the tournaments. Like I've prepared for the test away from the venue, and I've wanted it to be meaningful for the graduates, and it was great. I got a lot of nice messages saying how much it meant, and I worked on it for like a half a year or maybe a bit more. So, of course, then we started to change the text many times around, and I was worried that it was going to be too long, but I'm really happy I got to do it, and it's been a big honor.
Okay, so as in other clips, we are seeing a few parts here, but the first thing that we're seeing here is Saviour Ti. So Roger is saying that the work is obvious, it's not something to brag about, but you shouldn't assume that it's effortless. And he also then goes on to talk about how the other players feel, which is, we're seeing feeling on the spectrum. There is also a hint there for his social type, because he really avoids making himself separate from the other players. He doesn't want to put himself above people, and he gets really awkward when he has to talk about it. So there's a few parts there, but the main thing we wanted to highlight here is that he's seems to be a saviour thinker.
Hard worker.
Hard worker. The work is obvious. He very easily talks about what he does. He doesn't get stuck there. But then on the other side, you also see the feelings on the spectrum and how other people feel.
In tennis, perfection is impossible. In the 1,526 singles matches I played in my career, I won almost 80% of those matches. Now, I have a question for you. What percentage of points do you think I won in those matches? Only 54%. In other words, even top-ranked tennis players win barely more than half of the points they play. When you lose every second point on average, you learn not to dwell on every shot. You teach yourself to think, okay, I double faulted, it's only a point. Okay, I came to the net and I got passed again, it's only a point. Even a great shot, an overhead backhand smash that ends up on ESPN's top 10 playlist, that too is just a point. So here's why I'm telling you this. When you're playing a point, it has to be the most important thing in the world, and it is. But when it's behind you, it's behind you. This mindset is really crucial because it frees you to fully commit to the next point and the next point after that with intensity, clarity, and focus. The truth is, whatever game you play in life, sometimes you're going to lose. A point, a match, a season, a job. It's a roller coaster with many ups and downs. And it's natural when you're down to doubt yourself and to feel sorry for yourself. And by the way, your opponents have self-doubt too. Don't ever forget that. But negative energy is wasted energy. You want to become a master at overcoming hard moments. That is, to me, the sign of a champion. The best in the world are not the best because they win every point. It's because they know they'll lose again and again and have learned how to deal with it. You accept it, cry it out if you need to, and then force a smile. You move on, be relentless, adapt and grow, work harder, work smarter. Remember, work smarter.
Okay, there's lots of things here. You're not only getting a lot of sensory examples, but he also emphasizes working smarter and that having the right mindset is crucial, which are, I guess, anecdotally TI ways of framing things. But then he also reminds people of the opponent's perspective, indicating that it's generally easy to forget. And he also points toward a struggle with negative emotions, which he actually mentioned already earlier in the speech. And the bottom line is, again, to work harder, but even more so, smarter. So we've now seen that Roger is Saviour SI, and we've just covered off Saviour TI. So this next section we're going to look at is Observer versus Decider, but we'll also provide more proof for Demon FE, which we hinted at before when we were looking at Saviour TI, but didn't really have the clips to
give it the strongest evidence
strong proof. So let's take a look at this clip here.
While winning a third straight Australian Open title would add to his legacy, it is Peter Carter who made Federer the player he is today. Carter discovered the Swiss child prodigy in the city of Basel and is in Roger's heart every time he's on court.
You mentioned Peter Carter. We know that his parents often come and join you in the box at the Australian Open. For people who may not know, just explain who this man was to you.
Yeah, I mean, so it's actually a really nice story. He came to play club tennis in my club back in Basel at the Old Boys Tennis Club. When I was little, you know, he was also one of the star players on the team.
Well played by Peter Carter and Darren Cahill.
I was able to, you know, have coaching lessons with him, and he was from Adelaide in Australia.
Also from Adelaide was his close friend Darren Cahill, who bizarrely was also training another child prodigy, Leighton Hewitt. The two friends sharing stories from different continents as they prepared the next generation of tennis icons.
They used to call each other and say, I have this really special kid I'm training. And the other guy, Darren, would say the same from Adelaide. And then, of course, we played each other with Leighton when we were 14, 16, 18, 20, well, and then the whole career. And who knew we were both going to become Wimbledon champions, world number ones. So Peter was really a really important person in my life because I think if I can say thank you for my technique today, it's to Peter.
But disaster struck before Roger could show his mentor Peter what he was capable of. Carter died in a car crash while on honeymoon in South Africa 16 years ago.
He passed away the year before you won your first slam at Wimbledon, obviously. What do you think he would have thought to see you here now with 20 Grand Slams? It's okay. I'm sorry.
I hope he would be proud. I guess he didn't want me to be a wasted talent, so I guess it was somewhat of a wake-up call for me when he passed away, and I really started to train hard.
Is there anything you'd like to say about him in context of where you're at in your life right now?
I think what I would like to say is that I've been incredibly fortunate to having had the right people at the right time, the right coaches at the right time. I mean, sure you could argue I made those decisions, but I also got lucky along the way.
Okay, so Roger gives a lot of ST on his relationship with Carter, but he also calls people inspirational. Now, the first thing we're seeing here is feminine feeling. So his emotions are easily moved, and it is like a loss of control, which comes very suddenly. So to try and put some ST into the difference between FI crying and FE crying, what we think FE crying looks like is it's more outwardly expressive. You know, the person that's crying and their whole face expresses the sadness. When FI cries, it's more like silent tears, like the emotions are kind of silently going down your face. We also need to ask, why is he crying and what is the context? Now, he is suddenly moved and loses his composure because of another person who believed in him. Now, of course, anyone could cry about it, but Carter also died 16 years ago, and that loss still seems to be unresolved. So we need to ask, does Roger Federer own his own feelings? And it doesn't look like it. They're coming kind of suddenly out of nowhere and he loses control. And being emotional like that is a common pattern for him that people are regularly commenting on. So what we've just seen in this clip is Demon Effie and also single deciding. So what we're going to look at in this next clip is double observing.
This documentary was very emotional. It was emotional for you. It was emotional for us as viewers as well. There was one part where you were talking about what's next, and you could hear your voice getting choked up. Was that something that was a concern for you looking forward to the future?
And actually never so much, because I always felt that, I mean, career could always end with any injury, and it's only tennis. I always try to remind myself, and every time I won a match or a tournament, especially a tournament, let's say, not every match, but every tournament, I knew it could be my last, and so you always have to live it in a life where one day you'll be home, and then you will not be a tennis player anymore. You will only be a former tennis player, and I think that mindset has helped me through not being like too worried about the afterlife, you know, of tennis. So it's been great transition. I'm very happy, and I'm happy it was the way it was supposed to be for me.
Yeah, what would you tell the young kid who was a ball boy?
That get ready for a great life and a very enjoyable ride. A lot of times in the spotlight, you know, under pressure, trying to say break points and trying to say the right things on a red carpet or in the press conference. So, but you're going to have a great time, and you kind of wish it's going to go on forever. But everything has an end point, and I'm happy I was able to last as long as I did in the public eye, under pressure, you know, on the biggest courts of the world. It's been an absolute dream career. I couldn't be any more happier.
And here's another person pointing out how emotional Roger is. So we've seen that Roger does seem to struggle with things ending and the transition from his regular routine to something different. But also, as with Timothy Oliphant, Roger's social type made single deciding a little bit difficult to see, but what we were able to see more clearly was the presence of double observing. So he's not freaking out about the future because he was aware that as an athlete there was a strong likelihood that his career would eventually end in injury. And he's not over controlling every day because he's afraid of what might happen. He just accepts that, you know, his career is going to end at some point and that he will have to transition into something else, even though it is still hard. But it's just something he understands, accepts, and doesn't seem to have anxiety around it.
Exactly, and it seems fairly obvious. Like, look at his state in this clip. He is really calm. So really like, yeah, blah, 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 easy.
Yeah.
No problem. Double observing. By now we know that Roger is TISI in that order, and we already indicated earlier that it seems like he is an extrovert. But let's take a closer look at that and see, is he Saviour Consume or Saviour Blast?
High school wasn't a thing for you.
No.
College wasn't a thing for you. Was it like a little emotional experiencing
Yes.
a part of life that you maybe wouldn't have otherwise?
And very strange because, like you said, the academic world and that part of life is so far away from it, right? I knew that in Switzerland, it's super important. Academics come first, and
Yeah.
everything else is a hobby. You know, tennis, especially sports in general, anyways. So for you to pursue tennis or a sport in our country is like, well, you're obviously not going to be good at it. So make sure your grades are good, you know, because this is obviously not going to work out.
Oh, wow.
And so for us to dive into that and believing and dreaming of, you know, the big time is not something that is very common. Maybe now more so since, you know, I made it and we have more athletes making it, you know, and it's a thing. And you can see how much emotions actually a athlete can bring. It can be more seen as a career, you know, but then I remember I tried hard, you know, when I stopped school at 16 and chased, you know, my tennis dream. I remember I did French, English, and German online classes for those because I said, I got to do something after 16. I can't just stop it all. Then after, a couple of weeks, I asked my dad and my mom, like, it's so hard. I don't have the discipline to sit down and do English and all that stuff, and German and French. They said, okay, we drop French. I'll just do German and English. I'm better at that than the French part. They're like, okay, fine. So then, like 2 weeks later, I'm like, I can't do it. Just give me a chance just to do only tennis. And if tennis really doesn't work out, I'll go straight back to school. But please let me go.
Man, I like how you whittling down the languages.
Oh,
I can't
my
do
God.
French.
No.
I can't do language. I just want to hit the ball.
And then here I am, yesterday at Dartmouth. I mean, in my robe, giving commencement speaking, to all those graduates. They're going to be so bright. They're going to be incredible people, and I feel very humbled, and it was a great moment,
And you brought the family.
Okay, so in this clip we see something that is probably the hallmark of Blast, which is probably closer to what Blast actually is than being a good communicator, which is probably more connected to the Infodome coin. So Roger left high school at 16, and then we need to ask, okay, this is unusual. Who would do that? Like someone who comes from an affluent family who can go to high school, like why would he do that? And he took online classes in the beginning in languages, but he just couldn't sit still and take it in. Like he wanted to move around, he wanted to hit the ball. He couldn't sit still, he needed to do something. And this is what I mean by the hallmark and core of Blast. I think this is really what it is. And then it can come out in different ways. For him, it was practicing tennis. For Elena Cohen, who we typed 2 videos ago, it was writing his songs, right? But he also couldn't sit still. He had to urge to produce something. This is really what Blast is. And you can see in these interviews that he has an easy time talking. He doesn't need to be kicked to talk. But I wouldn't say that he's the greatest and clearest and most concise communicator, simply because he doesn't have a lot of practice. Like he's not a practiced public speaker. He's an athlete, but like he has this extroverted urge that's constant, that he always had, and he can't sit in and passively take in information, which is consume. So Saviour, Blast, Demon, Consume, we say it really well in this clip. Now we almost have Roger's full type. He is TISI, Sleep, Blast, Play, Consume. So he actually is a Sleep, Blast, Play, but he's not an IJ, he is an IP. But what about his social type? We already seen several indications of that. He really doesn't like to brag, he gets very uncomfortable about it, but we have some additional evidence too, and it's really funny.
Now to get them, what is it, a call? How easy is it for Roger Federer to get a classic Nike?
I do get the no. I do get the no sometimes,
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm actually happy it's this way, because it can't be like, okay, please send me this one, and it comes, and
the chase is fun sometimes.
The chase is the fun bit, basically, and then you want to wear them too. You can't order too many shoes as well. So yeah, but for the most part, they take care of me.
Right, definitely.
Basically, in every clip that we're seeing, people regard Roger with this kind of reverence as you're one of the greatest athletes of all time, because he just is. But how does he respond to that? Like the guy asked him, how easy is it for Roger Federer to get whatever Nike shoe you want? He says, like, sometimes it isn't that easy. Sometimes I actually get the no. But it's okay, I like it. Like, I don't want to have too many shoes. I really want to control the sensory. It's like, I don't want to be treated as too special. That makes me uncomfortable. So it looks like Roger's probably Demon Flex. But we have one more clip that really highlights how Demon Flex Roger Federer actually is. But unfortunately, we can't show the whole clip, we think, because it's from The Daily Show and it allows us to only use 30 seconds. So I have to give you a little bit of context first. So Roger tells a story about how he struggled to get into Wimbledon while the normal Wimbledon tennis tournament wasn't on. So he was randomly in London going to his doctor, and it turned out, like, after his doctor's appointment, he had a little bit more time before the flight he has booked. So he thought, with his, I guess, assistant or coach he was traveling with, why not go to Wimbledon and say hello and have some tea? Like, the people there know him and would probably appreciate it. So they spontaneously drove up to Wimbledon, and he thought that he could just get in because he's Roger Federer, and he's technically a member at a Wimbledon tennis club, because whenever you win Wimbledon, and no single men's tennis player has ever won Wimbledon more often than Roger Federer, then you become an official member and get a membership card and whatever. But here's where he struggled, to his own surprise. Like, he tried to get in, was looking for the front door and asked the security woman, so where can I get into Wimbledon? Usually I'm here when a tournament is on, and now it's all a bit different. Like I come into some other entrance, but where do I need to go? And she just calmly asks him, okay, where's your membership card? It's like, I don't have my membership card, but I swear I am a member. This security guard actually did not let him in, and he was trying to argue with her and explain to her who he was and why he should be let in. When this happened, what he now explains in the video.
And I don't know where to get in, so I'm just asking you again, where can I get in? She's like, well, at the side, but you have to be a member. So I look at her one last time, and I'm in a panic now, and I'm so sorry, and I still can't believe I say that, because I still feel bad about it, and I'd look at her and it's like, I have won this tournament 8 times, and please, believe me, I am a member, and where do I get in?
So after trying to reason with this woman for a while, he finally, in a panic, as he says, drops, I won this tournament 8 times. So he finally actually flexes. And he's so embarrassed about it. You can see it in this interview. So yes, can he flex? But like, it's the last thing he wants to do in the world. Like, he rather doesn't get into Wimbledon before he flexes. That's how bad he wants to avoid it. Although he actually has Wimbledon 8 times. Oh my God, what is going on here? So I think this is pretty good evidence that Roger is in fact a number 4. He's really flex last. Oh my God.
And it's also funny that he was originally there to have tea, to have friends time.
Right, good point.
So lead friends, wants to be there to do the friends stuff, but just can't flex to get himself in.
Yeah, but let me also talk quickly about the specialist versus generalist coin. So for most of his career, he did exactly one thing. He did tennis. He stuck with it for a long time, much longer than most other athletes. Even longer than other athletes who transition through like other careers more quickly, like Kobe or Shaq or Michael Jordan, who quickly become businessmen. But still, it made us wonder, because he handled his transition so well, and now he's a businessman. He is an actual investor in On. That could he maybe be a generalist and rather number 2, but probably not. Like, he seems to be not generalist last. He does kind of the generalist entrepreneurial thing now, but like overall, being the specialist seems to fit better with his trajectory overall. So Roger Federer's full type is double feminine, TISI, sleep, lust, play, consume, and he's number 4. We didn't talk specifically about his sexuals, but to us it seemed fairly obvious that he's a double feminine. But what are our key takeaways? I really think that a pattern is emerging here, that the most beloved, most universally-liked people on the internet are lead masculine TIs who are also number 4s, which is a group that does not include me. Just think of Timothy Oliphant, Keanu Reeves, and now also Roger Federer. The pattern just continues to become clearer and clearer and clearer. So if you're not one of those types, the internet probably will never love you as much. Just deal with it.
I've always had a dream, and that is to play the great Roger at one game of ping pong. This is going to be epic. I'll start. Here we go.
Oh, 1-0.
Already. 1 love. Jakes.
You've been practicing. Look at you.
Practicing? I haven't been practicing. I'd been practicing every night for months. I knew that Roger wouldn't have played on a table this small before, so I knew I'd get a few early good points.
I'm only just warming up.
That's what worries me.
We ended up playing this epic match. And he takes the lead for the very first time today.
Come on, steady the nerve.
Oh, no!
There was only ever going to be one winner. I can die a happy man, even though I lost.